you're certainly not going to win everything. They're going to find what you're not good at and they're going to exploit that and you're going to lose.
Welcome to the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy, where you will learn the tips, tricks, and strategies he teaches his world-class clients to give you the skills to dominate any business.
What's going on, Mindset by Design crew, and welcome to episode 422. Hope you're amazing as always, and life is treating you pretty damn awesome. I really mean it. Always say it because I really mean it. And I don't know what's going on in your life right now, but I'm sitting in Latin America. I'll give you a little bit of insight. You know, it's funny. I posted an interesting post on Facebook the other day, and of course I shared it across all social media. And if you're on my email list, then you'll be getting a little blurb about it too. And it's interesting because I was talking about dopamine. It's not what today's about, but I was talking about dopamine, and it's really a misunderstood neurochemical that's really been redefined over the past few years with the science really backing it up and really truly understanding. It's not just a reward mechanism anymore, and it never was, but now we understand it's much, much more than that. But it also affects us in so many different ways. And we have something what I call a dopamine addiction. And that dopamine addiction means we only feel alive or motivated or driven when this chemical is being produced. But that can become out of balance very, very easily. You know, some days you feel quite flat, and then suddenly you feel on, and then you feel flat, and you go through this constant dopamine cycle. That's not good. And what I was sharing is that for most people, traveling is something that people do once or twice a year. You know what I mean? And this year already, we're in August, and I've done like 6 or 7 countries, some for a month, some for a couple of months, some for a week, some for a day. And it's I'm looking out the window right now is my point. I can see the ocean. I can see skyscrapers. It's beautiful. I'm on the 18th floor, got an amazing view, and it's really cool. But it wasn't yesterday. It wasn't yesterday. It was just flat. It doesn't mean anything. I travel to so many different places that it's hard for me to get excited. And I was telling a story about I was on this deserted beach in Thailand years ago. And it's like someone else's absolute fantasy. They'd travel all the way around the world to just be on this beach. It was beautiful looking back. And I was flat. I was bored. And it just was like, well, now what, right? And I actually remember leaving, and that's a messed up thing to say, thinking back, because I'd love to be on that beach now. But that's the consequences of dopamine regulation and nervous system regulation. And the challenge is, as an entrepreneur, we go through these massive highs and lows, these massive spikes, and it causes absolute chaos. It causes absolute chaos. And one of the things that people don't know is these tools to be able to monitor themselves. And mindset it's kind of become not a dirty word as Huberman, who's got a clip from him today, and Mr. Jocko Willink. And yeah, 2 amazing people in very different ways, but 2 amazing people. And we're going to talk about the winning mindset of losing and winning, right? So what that difference is. And I know we'll talk about dopamine in there. But what I want you to understand, if you're feeling flat right now, it's simply because you don't have the tools. And mindset is an interesting term these days because it's very, very misunderstood. Most people don't even understand what that really means, you know? And I've done this podcast for many, many years. We're coming up to 3 million downloads. We've done over 422, was it today? Yeah, 422 episodes. And I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from guests. I've learned a lot from the research I do. I've learned a lot. It's taught me a lot, this podcast. And one of the things it's taught me is that people have no idea, really, truly, how to design, control their reactions, their motivation, their drive, what patterns are automatically playing, what their belief systems are, how to step into flow states, how to fully expand, how to communicate with themselves, how to design and repattern their own behaviors to be able to step into a room no matter how intense the pressure and be able to perform. Or how to reset, or what I call reboot, after you feel that you've been switched on for a long time and you're kicking ass, but then for some reason you just can't get going again. Or you are about to expand into a whole new chapter of business, and the weight comes, the pressure comes, you're dealing with a whole new blue ocean strategy, and that creates stress. That stress creates, again, the wrong neural nets to fire, the wrong chemicals to fire, and this creates, again, us out of peak performance. Or you might be exiting a company or changing roles in a company, and again, we feel this dopamine deflate, and this becomes a massive, massive problem. And that's why I wanted to share this episode today, because it is how to manage the wins and the losses, right? And Huberman is got some incredible research he's putting out there, and he doesn't necessarily do the research, he's just sharing this knowledge. And I'm so happy that he does, and I'm so happy that this knowledge is becoming more and more mainstream, because before it's a wild situation. I've done this, remember, for 21 years, thousands of the world's class clients and some of the best in the world at what they do. And I see some people just become so laser focused that they can achieve anything. And they do it so calm. They do it it's just like just taking a breath of air, making decisions, right? And what's the value of the right idea? What's the value of the right decision in the right moment? How do we switch on that creativity? These are all things that I work with private clients about. And I genuinely work with private clients these days only, exclusively, unless I'm doing trainings for companies and things like that. And I work with them because I feel there's so many people just marketers, and I'll use air quotes, marketers, just selling courses to make money. And they hurt the people, right? So I do 1 days, 2 days, whether it's in person, it's on Zoom, or we do 12 weeks together, 90 days, or we do 12 months together. And I find this is how I truly create results in people. Because that's what we want, right? We want results. And that can't be just got through a course. It's going to give you a lot of information. It's going to give you knowledge, but then we've got to apply that knowledge. And some people can, and some people do amazingly well. I've got incredible courses out there. Go to the shop on andymurphy.online and you can take a look. And we've got some more coming out. And they're incredible. They're life-changing. But then we still got to apply them. And it's like a world champion athlete who's already brilliant, then needs fine-tuning, right? To be able to get ready for a specific occasion. That's what I do, but in the business world with people. And I'm sharing this with you because you might be on these highs and this low roller coaster. You could be right now just stuck and not knowing what to do. And I'm just trying to share with you, right, that you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. Just slow down, regroup, and everything's going to work out. And that's why I wanted to share this podcast with you today. Because not everybody in marketing shows that everything's perfect. It's rosy. They're driving the cars. They're flying the planes. You know what I mean? They're earning millions of dollars a year. And they might be earning millions of dollars a year, but it doesn't mean that's what they take home for a start. And most marketers are full of shit. They're full of shit. And I've really not enjoying or disliking the industry more and more online as it grows. And I know I'm in the industry, but I'm definitely not a marketer. I just market. There's a difference. A marketer will find a niche, and they will just market to make money. They don't really care about you. They don't really give a damn about you. And we've all been really hurt by big promises. Big promises, you know what I mean? Ask a marketer if they will get results for you, or at least start getting results for you before you pay. No, they're going to take an upfront fee, and it doesn't matter if they get results for you or not, right? And that's the thing. That's the thing. There's no guarantees with these people. There's nothing. And I just want you to know, if you've been burnt or hurt by them, and you're feeling low, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that's where we start today. Sound good? Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. So just before we jump into the episode, go and help yourself. AndyMurphy.online. Connect with me, have a chat. I've got lots of ways I can help you. As I say, with immersions and the 1-2 days, the 12 weeks, or the 90 days, or the 12 months. But either way, I just want to help you. I just want to have a chat with you, and if I can shine some light on your next steps, then I'm all about it. So head over to andymurphy.online and click on Connect with Andy, and just fill it in. It's very easy. And also you can go to shop and see what's going on there for you. Sound good? Awesome. So go and do that, and let's jump in to today's episode, because it's a goodie. See you at the end of the show.
When we win, we feel like we can keep going, right? You look at the team that wins, and it's like, they'll play another game. The Super Bowl winners, you imagine they're jumping up and down, and they could probably play another Super Bowl. Losing, we know, can drop things like testosterone and dopamine for some period of time. But when you were in the teams, what was your observation about how winning and losing would impact people in the short and long term? In other words, would you observe people that had a quick reset button and could just say, that was terrible, and then transmute? I guess I'm getting into kind of the Eastern language now, to convert that into energy to go do better the next time. Whereas we also see people, military and in the civilian world, that a loss, in particular severe losses, basically set them down the path of like less energy. It certainly isn't less calories. In fact, most of the time it's the other way. They start consuming more calories, and that doesn't get them going. So again, this notion of energy, and now I'm asking wins versus losses. What did you observe? And from the perspective of leadership, and maybe more importantly, from the perspective of yourself, how do you work with that? How do you calibrate wins and losses? How do you transmute losses into energy? Because wins, we know, convert to energy, but losses oftentimes can sap our energy way, way down.
I think, to start with, I think that the selection process to get into the SEAL teams is going to weed out a bunch of people that can't recover very quickly from something bad. So you probably heard these type of stories before. The kid that was the star of the football team, the star of the basketball team, the captain of this, the captain of that. He's been winning his whole life. He goes to Buds and he quits. Because in Buds, you're not going to win. You're certainly not going to win everything. They're going to find what you're not good at, and they're going to exploit that, and you're going to lose. This is what happens. So a lot of guys that may lose and it disrupts their motivation, they're probably just going to quit. And so that's why you get this massive attrition rate with guys that are studs. I mean, we're talking Division I athletes, Division I wrestlers, Division I football players, Division I runners and swimmers. They all come to Buds. They all quit. Not all of them quit, but there's plenty of examples of the highest level of collegiate athlete in sports that translate very well to what you're doing in basic SEAL training, and they quit. And sometimes it's because they don't know how to lose. They don't know how to recover from a loss. And they're just so I think already once you get to a SEAL team, you've got people that are, generally speaking, going to be pretty resilient when it comes to dealing with a loss. Not only that, I mean, you just get used. You talk about losing people. You're friends with this guy. You meet this guy in SEAL training. Hey, this guy seems like a stud. Oh, he's just going to quit. And you're going to lose 5, 6, 7 people, 8 people. People quit so fast, you don't even keep track of them. So you're just going to lose. You're just going to get used to it. So there's that. Now, once you're in the teams, and what you're talking about is now you start taking much more significant loss. You're not losing a race, you're losing one of your friends. And this is what, from a leadership perspective, you have to pay attention to. So when you're a leader in any organization, you're basically in charge of a mob. When it comes to what their morale is, they're a mob, and they feed off of each other, just like a mob rioting in the streets going, oh, we can break this window, let's break all the windows. And they move this mob mentality. And that happens with morale inside of a team. And you as a leader can't get caught up with the mob. You can't let that happen. You have to detach yourself from the mob mentally so that you don't get caught up in their emotions and their morale.
Okay, crew, let me jump in there. So, do you see that disassociation that Jocko's talking about? He's talking about, whether you're talking about that in what he's talking about is in the military context. But let's talk about that in the business context. Let's talk about that in the network context. Let's talk about that in societal context, right? In the business context, it's a case of stop following the masses, right? Stop following the masses, first of all. And that goes to social. Stop following the masses. Generally, we talk about the herd mentality, right? If a herd is being led somewhere, it's probably never a good thing, right? It's generally never a good thing. You have to be able to distinguish your own internal dialogue, your own internal guidance system, your own internal drivers to be able to lead yourself to where you specifically want to go, right? You're being pulled somewhere. So be aware if you're following a herd mentality in society or in general, right? The other, what he's talking about is a team. Now, let me tell you a story, and it's actually a military story. But I was talking to a captain a long, long time ago. Actually, it wasn't that 10 years ago anyway. But he was talking about, do you know why they have officers' tents compared to the squaddies? The squaddies, or the normal military, are not allowed in the officers' tents. And I was like, no. And he gives it, well, it's not that we think we're better than them. What it's to do with is that the squaddies cannot handle seeing the officers as normal people, because then it sort of like breaks the morale. They see them as the everyday people. They see them as themselves, which then distinguishes. It stops the distinguishing. Control's the wrong word, or leadership is the right word, right? Because then they see the flaws, which means then they're not sophisticated yet in their thinking, because they're still being brainwashed, if you want to use that term, or conditioned into a certain belief system. So they can't distinguish between the two because their programming is not evolved enough yet. So what Jocko's talking about there from a business point of view, a leadership role is very different to being part of the team, right? You are part of the team, but you are a specific version of you in that team. And the spotlight is going to be on you. It's going to be on you. So you have to be able to perform at a higher level with a very different set of belief systems to everybody else, right? So everybody else is going crazy over here in stress and anxiousness, and I see this when I'm helping redesign or redevelop teams. And what you got to understand is who I work with is the team leaders, the founders, the management, the CEOs, because I know if I get them thinking as a separate unit, then they can understand how to lead or engage or embed the correct subliminal images or culture inside of their team, which is then going to motivate them and drive them to the company culture, the company vision, or the vision of the founder, right? But if he gets caught up, or they or she gets caught up inside of the herd mentality, then what happens is what Jocko's talking about then is the science shows, which is quite nuts, that in a riot, right, people will do the craziest things. The actual science term behind it is the influence by a person. The person actually loses personal responsibility, which is insane, right? So then what happens is the mirror neurons kick in of the actual group. So people want to be basically a leader inside of that group, and then they get the feedback from the group. So the person's impression of the universality of the behavior actually magnitudes the actions that they will do. So if they were on their own one-on-one, they wouldn't do the same things, but because there's a group, everyone like backs up the behavior. So if someone starts shouting, if the next person starts shouting, if someone throws something, then they throw something. So it's quite crazy, the different dynamics that happen.
You have to detach yourself from the mob mentally so that you don't get caught up in their emotions and their morale. Because if you get caught up in their emotions and you get caught up in their morale, you can't correct it. So we go out on a mission. The mission goes great. We get into a gunfight, kill a couple bad guys. Everyone's okay. High fives. Everyone's feeling great. You come back to base. Hey, we don't need to debrief. That was perfect. Hey, we don't need to get our gear, maintained. We can just go to bed. We're awesome. That's when the leader has to say, oh, we've got the mob, and the mob is becoming slightly arrogant. Hey, guys, real quick, that was a good op, but there's some things we could improve on. You got to bring that mob back and bring them back to center line. Same thing in the other direction. You go out on an operation, it doesn't go well. You go out on an operation, you take casualties. Now you come back to base. You see guys moping around. You see the spirit starting to break. And same thing. If you're part of that mob, you'll be with them. Your morale will be breaking. Your spirit will be breaking. You got to look at them and say, oh, I see what's happening. Hey guys, listen up. That was tough. Didn't go the way we wanted it to go. We need to learn some lessons. Here's some things I can do better. What can we do better to make sure that never happens again? What can we do to make sure we have the opportunity to go out and avenge our brother on the battlefield? What can we do to move this thing forward? So as a leader, when it comes to winning and losing, you're generally going to be the person countering what the mob mentality is. Because when the mob starts winning, they want to keep winning and they might get arrogant. When the mob is losing, they might start to lose more because their attitude goes down the drain. So that's what you have to pay attention to from a leadership perspective. For me personally, I know what I did when I lost guys was focus on, all right, we need to celebrate the life. We need to mourn the loss. And then we need to go to work. We need to get our gear back on. We need to lock and load our weapons. We need to get back out there. I know that that's what we needed to do. So often, the best way to contend with problems, with issues, with adversity is action, is by taking action. The more you sit and the more you wait and the more time you spend with that adversity, with the upper hand inside your head, the worse it's going to get. So for me, always taking action, making something happen. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be some mammoth, triumph that you're going to go and go and pursue. But if you say, hey, listen, this is what happened, didn't go the way we wanted it to, we're going to get our gear back on, we're going to go back out. We're going to do this other mission. And that's what I think. I think taking action, and it's in your personal life too. You know, something doesn't go the way you wanted it to go. You didn't get the job you wanted. You didn't get the hire. You didn't get the promotion. You can go home and sit there and dwell on it. That's not getting you any progress. Or you say, okay, you know what? Let me do a quick analysis. Why didn't I get that promotion? Oh, it's because I didn't get this qualification, or I hadn't jumped through this gate.
Love what Jocko's saying there. He's talking about action, right? Action is huge, because in that moment of, he's talking also about dopamine depletion, and he's talking about dopamine balance, right? And he's talking about nervous system regulation. All these are different topics, but when he's talking about dopamine regulation, what he's making sure is that the team does not celebrate too high, right? Because then you are going to get a knock-on effect of the pain after that. But also he's talking about action. And that's a cool thing, man. In that point there of whether it's a perceived loss, right? What he's doing there is bringing the brain from the limbic system, the emotional response, and he's bringing it into the frontal cortexes, which means then you start to rationalize or logic the decisions and start to strategize using those logic decisions. What that means is expanding the brain into new blue oceans, new possibilities. And by doing that, you start to reconnect the neural nets in a different focus. Does that make sense? So by doing that, then guess what? We can start getting dopamine hits a different way. And Jocko's explaining it in his way. I'm explaining it in my way, to do with performance, right? And hey, who is going to know more about performance than someone who's a Navy SEAL captain and has led thousands of probably missions? Maybe not thousands, maybe hundreds, maybe not, but he's done a lot, right? And so he knows how to bring a team back to be able to perform again. And what I look at it from is many different aspects in my own life, in dealing with all the things that I've dealt with in my personal life, dealing with the things that I've dealt with all these teams, being a martial artist growing up, the highs and lows in my life, and just dealing with thousands of people. And when we keep whatever pattern I'm trying to say, whatever focus we dominantly have for a period of time, the pattern starts to build. So what he's doing very cleverly is interrupting that pattern, gathering the team again on a predetermined outcome, a new mission, which a new mission becomes very exciting again, right? And that is a team. So if you can have your whole organization getting excited about the next mission, the next mission, the next mission, and give them pretty fast results or feedback, then that starts to create a nice loop, right? That feedback mechanism. And if we can do that, dude, we're on.
Okay, cool. What do I need to, let me look into how do I get to jump through that gate? So next time I will get the promotion and you start taking action. So action for me is a cure for a lot of problems that we have in life.
And on the final note there, crew, on the final note, action is a huge thing. But it has to become from strategic action, strategic decisions, right? Because we can take action. You go, I need to feel this, and you just run off a mountain, right? It's like, obviously that's not what you're going to do, but you get what I'm saying. So it's strategic action, because action for the sake of action can also lead you down a self-destructive pattern, or basically you can go deeper into the hole. So what he's talking about first is actually strategizing and learning and regrouping before taking action. Just so you know. And speaking of taking action, make sure that you're heading over to andymurphy.online. Why? Well, you can do a few things there, can't you? You should know by now, right? We've got articles going to be coming out on there, which is cool. But again, if you're not on my list, then please, I'm pumping out articles every single week to you, and they're detailed science, neuroscience, behavioral psychology, persuasion, influence, experience, coaching, everything that you need to be able to hit the next level. I'm also pumping these things out on social media, so make sure that you are hanging out with me on social media somewhere. What else? Make sure you're going to get your Total Mind Control Handbook for free right now on andymurphy.online. Make sure you're checking out the shop. We've got other things coming up there very, very soon. But you definitely go and get the Genius Trader, and definitely go and get the 8-Figure Thinker. And if you scroll around, you might find some other free goodies, which I'm actually going to put into the shop very, very soon. But either way, the best thing you can do is head over to Connect with Andy, fill in the application form, and whatever level you're at, let's see, because I can help you from 1 day, 2 days, 90 days, or even 12 months. And we can do it in person, we can do it online. Right, that's it. Wrapping up this episode. Until the next time, keep kicking ass, like I said. And oh yeah, one more thing. Why don't you smile for me?
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy. We'll catch you next time.